What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. I'm joined, of course, by Sergeant Adams, Brandon Adam. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon D Adam 19. Brandon, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Just in golfing a ton and enjoying the summertime up here in the mountains. Finally, you know, it snowed on June 1st, and so we're kind of trying not to go back to that. Today it's going to be 85 degrees at 9,000 feet. So this is insane. It's very hot today.
We're recording this on June 11th. There are two things that need to be done on June 11th. Okay, Brandon. One, get a golf game in, and number two, figure out fantasy football, the best teams to stack. And that's what we're going to do for the folks today. It's an interesting topic because stacking, I would say, has become more and more popular. There's some very smart data-driven analysis out there that suggests that especially in these big tournaments, I mean, you can go to Underdog.com right now, use code DFSArmy to get a up to $100 dollar for dollar match on your first deposit at Underdog, which is fantastic. And they've got Best Ball Mania 3 rocking, which is, I believe it's a total of $10 million in total prize money, but it's $2 million to first place. So it's a pretty astounding tournament that's out there, but it's very challenging to win. Oh, absolutely. And look, there's been a lot of analysis about how do you really differentiate? Because you've got like roughly in any just a normal league, like 8.3% chance of winning that league, 1 out of 12. When you are going up against thousands of your closest friends over at one of these tournaments, you really do need to differentiate and also correlate. So what we're talking about today is really that correlation factor. And so we each have 3 teams that we're looking at. And I should preface this by saying, Brandon, these are stacks that we think, generally speaking, are realistic to get. This is based on ADPs. And really all you need to do out there for those following at home is, if you do a draft matrix, right? It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Just color code the shit, man. Just literally go 1 to 12 and then 13 to 24 and go back and forth. It takes 20 minutes to do that. Color code some stacking options. And then just because I'm a visual person, you can visually see, okay, if one player is being drafted on one end of the draft board and the other player is being drafted way on the other end of the draft board, it's probably not a realistic stacking option, right? So we're going to talk about some realistic stacking options today that from an ADP perspective are realistic. One of the ones that I have is you're going to have to reach a little bit, which I will say, Brandon, we don't recommend reaching in your best ball drafts because, look, right now the market is quite sharp in terms of ADPs, but nobody's ever correct. So if you're going to win one of these tournaments, you sometimes have to reach just a little bit. If you're reaching 2 rounds, it's wrong. But if you're reaching 3 or 4 spots, well, then that's just getting your guy. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. Of course, good morning, Clipboard Jesus. Happy to see you.
Good morning.
I must admit you were the master at it, Shane. I'm not sure master of what, but maybe it's fantasy football. So, Brandon, let's throw it right to you. Tell me about your favorite. This is going to be your favorite. You talk about it all the time. You roasted me just this week when we told the people this is a quarterback that I'm avoiding, but tell me a team that you're stacking up in fantasy football this year.
I am all in on these Bengals, boy. Like I've been seeing a lot of chatter about Joe Burrow being overrated, overvalued, overhyped, over everything, right? And I'm the exact opposite. I'm the guy that's saying this is his 3rd year breakout. This is the year where he can be confident with the knee. This is the year he's got protection with Alex Kappa and Lyle Collins coming over to the Bengals, and forget what the Patriots own lineman that came to Bengals as well. I think he's going to finally have the time to actually be able to throw deep downfield, and I think we saw the shift around week 10 last year, towards the end of the year, where the Bengals are trying to get to. I think they were trying to protect Joe quite a bit early in that season last year because of the knee, just not great O-line. But this year is going to be completely different. I really think this is the year they're going to try and become that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense with Tom Brady, with Evans, Godwin, and with Kappa and all those guys protecting. I think Joe's going to have the time. I think he's going to bump up his attempts from 520 to, I think, mid 600s, close to 630 attempts this year. I think this offense is going to be upbeat. I think remember, this offense came from the Rams. That is who they're trying to become. They're trying to be the Rams. What was Stafford last year? He threw for 600 and so attempts last year, and he was QB5 on the season, and with 41 touchdowns. I think why can't Joe Burrow do that? Why can't Joe Burrow, with a better O-line, with a better offense, in my opinion, with T. Higgins, Chase, Mixon, Hayden Hurst now. Better offense. I'm telling you, this is going to be a top 3 offense in the league. Top 3. And it's not, I can't believe I'm the only one that's on this. Like, I really believe that he is going to take that next step, that Josh Allen step that we saw with production. I think this is his year. I really do. I think he's got a better completion rate than Tom Brady, 70%. I just believe if he just influxes that volume, we're going to see big jumps with T. Higgins and with Tyler Boyd as well. I just feel like that offense is primed to take off.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think anybody's debating. Okay, you say that people don't trust you. Jamar Chase is going at ADP 5. T. Higgins is going at ADP 23, and Joe Burrow is going at ADP 69.
Perfect.
Nice. And the thing is that from a team building perspective, you can actually go and get these players without reaching in a draft, right?
Exactly. As long as you have a top 5 pick, like you got to have that top 5 pick to get Jamar Chase. If you want to do the Jamar Chase stack, you have to be in the top 5.
Actually, see, Brandon, that's actually top really 6. Sharp. Well, top 5, top 6, but that's a really sharp point that we should just preface this whole conversation about, is that there are certain parts of where you're going to be drafting. Like, you don't get to choose your draft spot. That is randomized, right? Yeah. So some of the stacks we're going to be talking about, they're not realistic based off of where you're drafting in this. But if you've got a top 4 or 5 pick, that's where you can go and get Jamar Chase in round 1. You're going to have to come back and get T. Higgins in round 2. I've actually seen him go in late round 3. But if you go in with the mindset, this is going to be my strategy, then you get T. Higgins round 2. And then coming back as you are approaching the end of round 6, you can go and get Joe Burrow at ADP 69 overall without reaching for a single one of these players. You're just basically getting them at their ADP. And then the thing about stacking, especially Joe Burrow with both of these players, is that we saw it last year where typically it was either or T. Higgins or Jamar Chase that were scoring as the wide receiver, or top 12 wide receiver in any given week. But for the most part, Joe Burrow is going to go off. And while he did have some up and down games in terms of what the Bengals were just generally focusing on, he had multiple 4 touchdown weeks last year. So you assume that Joe's going to take a step forward, and that totally makes sense. So I like that one. Look, again, to win these best ball tournaments, pretty much you're going to have to hit the nuts in your draft, right?
Yep.
So at that point, if T. Higgins is going to go off, if Jamar Chase is going to go off, Joe Burrow is surely going to go off. So I like that one. I like that.
I mean, think about last year. T. Higgins only had 5 touchdowns last year. I mean, to think about that and the production that he was getting later in the season, the consistency was there. I think that offense just needed to grow together a little bit with everybody on the field. And I think this is the year everything meshes and everything. I don't think it's going to be so hot and cold with Jamar and T. I think it's going to be much more. They will both be top 15 wide receivers a lot of weeks, both of them. I just feel Joe is that kind of guy, and he doesn't use his legs. So all the production he's going to have is through the air. I think that is where they're going to lean heavy into this year. They're going to have to, because the AFC is loaded. The AFC is absolutely loaded. And I think they understand that. I've been seeing a lot of people saying Joe Mixon is going to have a career year and all that. And I appreciate that. I think he could as well, but I really believe the whole plan for the protection with the O-line was to create more time for Joe to create more time for Jamar, create more time with T, and to just sling that rock 100% of the, at much more frequency this year, higher volume. I just feel like that is where they're going. They're not going to protect Joe anymore. They're going to release Joe and let him do what he wants.
Release Joe. You know who else I want to be released this year? Justin Fields. The Bears, if they want to win football games this year, they're going to have to release Justin Fields. This is one where, look, you're going to have to draft multiple quarterbacks. And check out our show just this week, the Bold Call show. We talked about some quarterback strategy with the geek, the commander, the general, as it were. We talked about quarterback stacking or quarterback strategy. And so if you do end up going with Justin Fields as your QB2, we don't recommend Justin Fields as a QB1, but as a QB2, you might want to start considering it because Darnell Mooney is going at ADP 60 overall. Okay. So again, positionally, this is at the back part of the rounds. So if you're drafting in pick 10, 11, or 12, that's kind of that sweet spot for this player. Okay. So if you get Darnell Mooney, back of your head as you're going through your draft, start considering, okay, do I want to go and get Justin Fields right around pick 130 as my QB2? That's pretty much the end of round 11. So things are going to have to go, perfect for you, right? He's going to have to fall 1 or 2 spots to you, but there's a very good chance you can start out with Darnell Mooney at pick 60, come back, get Justin Fields at 130. And then at that point, as your tight end 2, guy that we've been talking about all off season, check it out on TikTok, baby, all the way from back in February, I want to say. Cole Kmet, man. I like Cole Kmet as a breakout tight end this year. He continued to show progression last year. He actually did have some pretty good chemistry with Justin Fields. He just didn't score any touchdowns. And we know, especially at the tight end position, if you're not drafting one of those elite top 3 or 4 tight ends, at that point, you're going for the guy that you think has the most touchdown upside, right? It's a player you're going to talk about later on who's going to have massive touchdown upside. Cole Kmet, if he can get in the box 6, maybe 7 times this year, I think that's going to go a long way for one, production for Justin Fields, but as well as look, he's going to be your perfect ideal tight end 2, Cole Kmet. So yeah, man, it's the Bears. It's do or die year at this point.
See, that's that. Like if you're competing, like we got to preference this. When you're competing in these massive contests, you're going to need, sometimes it's going to be those off the beaten path stacks that are going to win the money. A bunch of people are going to have these Bengal stacks, right? So if you have this bear stack and it actually works, then you're in that 1% of people that actually put it on, that actually committed to it and did it. And that is going to make you jump in the ranks and get you that money. And I just feel like when you just be a little bit different with the bigger the contest, the bigger and scummier you can get and have more fun with it. And I believe those are the teams that actually end up winning a lot more than, it just seems that way to me. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but just that seems like one of those nasty stacks that people aren't thinking about doing. And that is for those big contests and if Justin Fields actually does what everybody, what we thought he could do pre-draft before he was drafted, if you can do that, then you're going to cash for sure. Like, I think that's a hot take for sure. Justin Fields, Mooney. I like that a lot.
One thing, just you brought up a really good point, just about the fact that lots of people are probably going to have Bengals stacks just because they're a sexy team, right? They were in the Super Bowl last year.
100%.
One of the things you have to remember is that in these tournaments, first and foremost, you got to get through your league, right? You got to finish first in your specific league. And then at the last 3 weeks of the season is essentially a tournament. And then you need to score the top half of these tournaments, right? So if everybody in that tournament at the very end has a Bengals stack, you need to make sure that you're differentiated from those guys, because if the Bengals goes off like you think they can, and they certainly can, they have that potential, then multiple teams are going to have that, and people and teams advancing are going to have that stack. So how do you differentiate? Well, you go with Justin Fields. He's not quite as sexy, right? We liked him as a rookie last year, but frankly, he fell flat on his face. So that I think that's what you have to do. Give me one that you like that it just is going to melt faces. Again, this is a high-end stack. You're going to have to go and pay some premium draft capital for this. But tell me one of your favorites, Brendan.
Mike Dickinson needs to cover his ears right now. go get Kyler Murray, stack him with Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz. That is an extremely easy high-end stack you can do in a high output offense that we know is going to be pass heavy. I think that is going to be a stack that people aren't quite on because of Zach Ertz, because people think he's old and busted or whatever, but he's 31 years old. He was a tight end 5 last year, and he only played half the season with the Cards. What's he going to do when he's fully in with no D-Hop for 6 weeks? And where's that production going to go? I believe it's going to be a lot of Zach Ertz, a lot of deep Hollywood Brown play action passes from Connor. And I think that offense is going to absolutely take off with Hollywood Brown. That chemistry out of Oklahoma is going to start clicking. There's a reason why Hollywood wanted to go to the Cards, man. It's because he trusts 100% that he's going to get the bag if he's with Kyler. Because Kyler is, I was just arguing on Twitter about this. He's top 3, top 2 in deep ball pass efficiency. Like, it's not even like a debate, but people act like it was a hot take when I put it out there on Twitter. Like, people are like coming at my throat for it. And it's like, no, man, if you chart the deal, if you chart his throws and you chart other people's the throws of 20 plus, Kyler is actually number 1 in the league. Okay. Number 1. So I'm being very nice to people when I say he's top 3. He's number 1. And what does Hollywood Brown do? Hollywood Brown is made to go off the play action and go deep and penetrate and take the top off the defense. That is what he's there for. And I feel like Kyler Murray and him are going to be connecting a lot this year.
It's interesting. So obviously Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown did play college together. And so they have that built-in chemistry, which, again, we talked about the narrative last year. It was quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks getting their guys, whether it was Joe Burrow getting Jamar Chase as an example, right? And so I think that's sharp. Everybody knows that DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 weeks. The one thing to add on to your Zach Ertz, so we want opportunity for our tight ends, okay? So he was near the top. He had a 19.31% target share last year, okay? He had 5 total touchdowns, but in the red zone, he had 18 red zone targets, and he had a 27% target share in the red zone from Kyler Murray. So they are going to Zach Ertz early and often. And
100%.
Look, again, Zach Ertz's ADP, man, like we're talking about
it's nothing.
110. So he's essentially free. So obviously, I mean, look, we don't always advocate drafting quarterbacks early, but if you go and you get Marquise Brown, you should certainly consider at ADP 60. So essentially, you're going to get Marquise Brown at pick 36, and you're going to come all the way back, and then on your next back-to-back picks, you're going to have to make a decision and choose Kyler Murray. At that point, you might as well go and get Zach Ertz to pick 110 overall and get that stack, because Zach Ertz, he's going as a tight end 10, which that's quite late.
Insane.
So you don't have to pay up. So you can.
It's insane. It's all because of age, and I just don't think anybody realizes. If you look at his splits from before he got traded to what he was doing in the Cards, man, it's massive difference. And I just don't take advantage of people's bias because they think he's old, because he's not. He's a year younger than Travis Kelce. He's a pro's pro. He's been a Pro Bowl tight end before. He knows how to get open. And like I said, he instantly had chemistry with Kyler, instantly. And now that Hop is out, I mean, that is a massive void and a lot of vacant targets that are going to end up going to Zach Ertz in the prime area, that red zone. I just feel it coming, man. I just feel Zach Ertz. He's going to be he's easily a tight end 5 to me. And you're going to, like you said, you're getting massive value with him.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I got another one for you. This one is, we're going all the way to the desert, baby. Because those Las Vegas Raiders, I think, are a pretty good stacking option. Now, here's the thing. I will admit that I've softened a little bit on Devontae Adams. I think for the most part, a lot of people have. His ADP is still about around 10.10. Well, it's 10, 11. So you're going to have to be getting him pretty much early if you're at the end of the draft round. End of the first, you're going to be getting Devontae Adams. But the thing is that there are 3 legitimate good stacking options for Derek Carr. So let's go back first. The last person being drafted out of this team is Derek Carr at 107. We talked about again with our QB strategy show. Go to the channel. You can check out all of our shows from this week and before. Just this week we talked about QB strategy. And if you go and get Derek Carr, it's him, it's Stafford, it's Tom Brady. That's that line of demarcation where it's quarterbacks that are maybe don't have that elite upside because of the legs, but we know that because of the talent around them and because of their throwing ability, they can put up 40 plus touchdowns in a season. That's what you need for one of these pocket passer, statuesque quarterbacks to pop, especially in your best ball leagues, whether it's a tournament or just a standard 12-team best ball league. Derek Carr at 107, I think is great value. But if you can pull the trigger on Devontae Adams, but say you don't want to pay that premium, you don't want to pay that king's ransom for Devontae Adams, you can still go and get Darren Waller at 42 ADP overall, or Hunter Renfrow.
There you go.
Out of contract, by the way. He showed last year that he has elite chemistry already with Derek Carr. Yeah. I'm not convinced that you're just going to say, oh, hey, Hunter, look, Devontae Adams is in town now. You can take a seat. No, he showed it last year with his ability. So you can go in and pay the price for any of these guys. Hell, if you want just a skinny stack, you could go and get Hunter Renfrow at 81 overall. Wait, chill, relax, draft your upside players. And then at 107, as the QB 14, you can go and get Derek Carr. So again, he could be your QB2 once again. This is the type of tournament where there's still not a lot of we like to talk about sex appeal on this show, right? There's just something about the Raiders where there isn't that sex appeal quality to it. And
to me, there is. Like I'm all about it, man. Like I've been so early on the Raiders. I love it. I think they're I think Derek Carr is finally got a squad that he can actually flourish and be his top end projection of what he can be. I really believe this is his year. I think he's been waiting for how long to have an offense like this and a team like this, to be honest. Think about it. This team that they got going is the best team he's had by far. He's got chemistry with Hunter Renfrow. He's got chemistry with Waller. He's got chemistry from college with Devontae Adams. And now you got a offensive guru in McDaniels that is gonna want to light this league on fire and show that he's a coach that can actually lead a team because of that disaster in Bronco land with how bad it was for him. He was just too young, too arrogant, and I believe he matured. I am 100% with you, Clipboard. He is top 8. I'm right there with you with Derek Carr. I drafted him in my startup with the stack of Devontae Adams on purpose because I believe he's one of the most underrated and consistent quarterbacks that you can get right now in drafts, and has that elite upside because of just the talent that surrounds him now. Think about a la Diggs. When Diggs showed up to Buffalo Bills, what did that do for Josh Allen? Like, what did that do for him? He suddenly became a superstar, right? Like, what happens when you get the number one, according to pros, not just just people that are in the game, the number one wide receiver in the league is showing up on your squad. That's your best buddy since college. Yeah. What's going to happen? I think he's going to have a massive uptick in production, and I'm buying in on it for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting though. I mean, just this week it kind of came out Devontae Adams. One of the reasons he wanted to move teams was he didn't like the uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers came out and he said, yeah, he wants to support his buddy. But when Aaron Rodgers signs his deal and then just a couple days later, Devontae Adams is shipped off to Las Vegas, you gotta be saying, dude, this sucks. Now I got Allen Lazard as my wide receiver 1. Get the hell out of here. But yeah, man. I think as kind of a consequence, so one of the things, just as a total pivot, Josh Jacobs is a player that I'm generally avoiding this year, right? He's right in that dreaded dead zone of running backs. The thing about what we always talked about with the Josh Jacobs narrative was he needs to be able to catch the ball. The Raiders were always coming in and saying, okay, our game plan this season is Josh Jacobs is going to go and catch the ball. Didn't really happen until last year. We actually did get over 4 targets per game, which it's up there. It's probably one of the top 10 or close to top 10 in terms of targets per game, which is fantastic. But when, again, you've got Darren Waller, you've got Hunter Renfrow, you've got Devontae Adams, and assuming, of course, for everybody that they stay healthy, that target share is going to be, I think, naturally sapped away from Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Because those targets are going to go to Hunter Renfrow in the slot, I think. So
I agree.
To me, it's going to be sharp, but as a consequence of this, I would say I would fade Josh Jacobs. Give me one more, Brandon, one more stack that you love. Maybe this is maybe a lower end type of stack, but
Yes,
this is for the people
very
who don't
low
want to
end.
pay. Yeah, don't want to pay the king's ransom for this. But tell me your
This
last stack.
this is a lottery ticket. This is the one. This is the lottery ticket. If it doesn't work, you know going in that the odds of this smashing aren't great. But if it does smash, that is where you can be different, and that is Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore stack. This stack right here, two elite wide receivers that can get it done, and I'm excited to see how they do the target share, breakup target share that's going to be for Zach Wilson. I just feel like Zach Wilson, everything that I've been seeing about him is that he's becoming more mature off and on the field. He's put on 15 pounds, and it looks like he put it on in muscle, and he looks extremely stout now, extremely strong. I just feel they built out that line. They got Breece Hall. They got to be able to stabilize that offense. I just feel with that play action ability and the rollout ability of Zach Wilson with Breece Hall, who's going to benefit the most from that? It's going to be Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, man. Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore are going to be able to run free because everybody on this world is going to think Breece Hall's getting the rock every freaking tote. And I just feel like he's going to stick that thing in his belly. And he's going to pull it right back out, and he's going to roll out, and he's going to set his feet, and he's going to send it deep to Elijah Moore and to Garrett Wilson for a lot of tutties. I'm excited about the Jets. I know that's crazy to sound. That sounds crazy to me, right? That sounds very crazy.
It's cockamamie is a word.
We may be a year early on this one. This may be a year early on this one. I'm a dynasty player, so I'm looking at the arc of careers more. I love that setup. If you want to get that in dynasty, please do it, man. Because I believe this is the next Bengals type of projection of a team in a few years. Like this is give this team a couple years to work out what Garrett Wilson's going to be with Elijah Moore and Zach Wilson in this offense, and we could see something very special. But if it comes a year early, it's worth just a dart throw. It's worth, especially in those big tournaments. This is how you can get a little skanky, a little different, a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely sharp. I mean, we like Zach Wilson as a late upside quarterback. The thing is that when I say late, he's literally going as QB 23 at pick 172.
He's free. He's
overall.
free.
Yeah. So Elijah Moore, you're gonna have to get him at pick 67, which as a wide receiver 31, that's the market basically saying he's gonna finish in line with where he finished last year, where he finished as 34 points per game last year. He's gonna continue to improve. He only played 11 games last year, so obviously he needs to stay healthy. But I mean, again, another year in the league. He didn't really battle injuries when he was in college, so this is a relatively new thing for him. But the upside is absolutely immense. And the thing about Garrett Wilson, so he's a rookie. He's coming out of Ohio State. Garrett Wilson, before the draft, was my wide receiver one coming into in terms of prospect. He's a poet in terms of his route running. He's at next level. We love Chris Olave because Olave is just a consummate pro. But Garrett Wilson has the ability to go and absolutely just melt the NFL. Like he's the type of player that, if we look back, like Garrett Wilson absolutely has the upside as being the best wide receiver in his class. And so going to a team now, Zach Wilson, man, he's going to have to step the hell up. He's
big time.
Garrett Wilson, we know what he is. Elijah Moore, we know what he is. Zach Wilson, bro, you gotta step it up. But we were talking about the camp narratives. Apparently, Zach Wilson's getting thick. He still has that baby face, but he's getting thick. So he's getting that NFL bod, if you were. And this is what's going to take, man. It's fantastic. And if you want to get a little nasty, Breece Hall or even Michael Carter is going as the RB45 and pick 143 overall. What do we know Michael Carter likes to do, especially with Breece Hall? Now, Michael Carter is going to be the third down back, especially to start. He's going to catch a lot of receptions. So if you want to go and just quad stack the hell out of the Jets, Now this is more
There
of a
you
tournament
go.
play, all right? We talk about
Yes, this is very
differentiating
tournament.
ourselves.
This is tournament plays, boys. This is something that's got like a 2% chance of working, and if it does, it makes you money. So
That's why we're here, man. We're trying to get you guys some
yeah,
money. We ain't the pros
yeah,
like the DFS Army, the grinders. We're just, some casual fantasy football enthusiasts, but
yeah.
we've done pretty well for ourselves. And so if you want to differentiate yourself in these leagues, go for a team like the Jets. Now, okay, for my third and final stack that I'm going to recommend to the people, this is one where things have to fall just so. Okay. And at the very start of the show, I didn't advocate reaching because when you reach, you're essentially giving value to your competitors, which, again, all things being equal, it becomes suboptimal for your ability to win. But in these tournaments, as long as you're not reaching significantly, we recommend drafting. If you go and you get Lamar Jackson
Boom.
at 51 overall, one of the players you obviously want to try to get him with is Mark Andrews. And so, again, conceptually, when you look at the board, Mark Andrews is going at 16 overall, which is essentially the front half of round 2, whereas Lamar Jackson is going at 51 overall, which is a front end of round 5, which is the opposite of your draft position, right? So if Mark Andrews falls, so this is a big if Mark Andrews falls anywhere between mid to late round 2, which I've seen it happen in drafts that I've been in, so it happened, it's real, okay? That is when you're going to want to say, listen, this is my opportunity to go and get that Raven stack. Again, it has to fall just so, which, look, again, we talked about it for this tournament. If you're going to win it, you got to get the nuts. So Mark Andrews, if he falls to round 2 and you decide to go elite tight end to start with, go and get Lamar Jackson. The thing is, Lamar Jackson and Rashad Bateman, oh, baby. We're more and more in on Bateman. Bateman's going at 55.
And we
which
were
is four
early
picks
on
after
that,
going.
bro.
I know.
Everybody's copying us. Like, it's actually pretty
I'm
funny. Like, we put out things like a month, 2 months earlier than people, and then suddenly it's the new craze of Twitter. It's just
in
wild.
vogue.
Like it's happened with the Lions. It's happened with when we talked about Devontae Adams leaving. It's happened like all that stuff. Like that, we've called so many things. It's been insane, actually.
I think we have a slight advantage of Brandon because we literally haven't stopped. We've been podcasting constantly since September last year. So that's just, I guess it's kind of the be first, baby. Be first.
Yeah,
But
be first.
so Lamar Jackson, if you're going to go and make this stack happen, one, you're going to have to get lucky. Mark Andrews is going to have to fall. As you're coming back at the end of round 4, that's when you're going to want to pull the trigger on Lamar. So a little like 3 or 4 spots early over his ADP. And then when you come back in round 5, that's when you want to hammer Rashad Bateman. Now, a lot of the skeptics out there are going to say, well, look, they're going to have their linemen back. They had a lot of injuries. They're literally their top 3 running backs last year were injured. So they're going to want to run the rock this year. I get it, right? But Lamar's going to throw the ball, but it's going to be very consolidated to 2 players. It's going to be Mark Andrews and it's going to be Rashad Bateman. And Bateman, man, he has so much to prove. Last year was disappointing. He was battling injuries. The few games where he actually did go and go off, I think it was with Tyler Huntley as his quarterback. So he didn't really have any of his massive games with Lamar Jackson. But guys, Lamar Jackson's a good quarterback. Last year was just an anomaly. It was everything that could have gone wrong for the Ravens went wrong for the Ravens. Law of
100%.
averages. Hopefully people stay healthy. And Lamar Jackson, man, we know as just a quarterback alone, if you don't want to stack him, has league winning upside. You add his 2 favorite pass catchers on the team. That's how you absolutely melt your league. And that is how you win a tournament on the Underdog Best Ball Mania 3.
What do you feel? What do you feel about in these kind of deals? Like, what if you went kind of crazy and you went Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, and Andrews, or Andrews or Bateman? What do you think about taking the RB and taking all those rush tutties as well of the offense?
Well, so there's some game theory with this, right? So generally speaking, like the simple answer is it's suboptimal, right? Because you're going to be taking away, like naturally, if J.K. Dobbins is going to score, it means that Rashad Bateman and Lamar Jackson or Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews aren't going to get that duo passing touchdown, right? So it becomes suboptimal because in any given week, when your players are scoring and putting up points for your rosters, because again, best ball, you're going to draft multiple players. The software is going to throw your best players up there. If you're drafting and you're doing these stacks, then you're going to expect that for the most part, those are the stacks that are going to, excuse me, are going to hit your lineup. So if J.K. Dobbins is scoring 2-3 rushing touchdowns, and we're not getting any of the passing production from Lamar Jackson, it becomes suboptimal. Now, if you, well, again, this is if you want to be contrarian, and it's actually interesting you bring this up because I was just debating with one of my buddies. He's an engineer, really smart guy, definitely smarter than I am, way better at math than I am. But he was talking about how because so many people are going to be stacking this year, maybe we want to do the opposite and don't stack. So you're going to basically say, look, if I'm going to be drafting J.K. Dobbins, the RB1 on the Baltimore Ravens, and then I'm going to also be doing these Ravens pass catcher stacks, you're going to essentially be assuming that the Baltimore Ravens are going to be the number one offense in the league this year because they're just going to put up 3-4 touchdowns every single game, which, look, that's not crazy to think, but it's going to be
possible. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a team's just going 28 to 35 points every single week, right? If they're the winning teams. So it's extremely possible, but it's going to be hyper consolidated. It's going to say these 3 guys are going to score all of their production. And it's just, it's not optimal. So I wouldn't recommend it. Because
it's just something I was thinking about.
Yeah. Well, the idea here is that you want to set it up so that your pass catchers and your quarterback are scoring, and then you're going to get all the touchdowns on another team. Say you drop like J.K. Dobbins and Elijah Mitchell are going similar in ADP. Maybe instead of J.K. Dobbins, you go and get Elijah Mitchell, where you assume, okay, Lamar and Bateman are going to put up 2 touchdowns, and then Lamar's going to pass for 3 this week. That's going to be one massive stack and build up points on my team. And then over here, Elijah Mitchell's going to go and put up a line like 120, 1 touchdown, and 45 passing yards with 3 receptions, right? So just have an absolute monster game. That's the most optimal way to build your team. Okay. So that's what I would say with that. But
so I'm trying to get this out for everybody else. You know, like we may know this stuff, but like these other guys, you know, people that are watching, they might get that idea and go, screw it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get all the Ravens offensive production, and I'm going to take that whole team. But yeah, it becomes you're working against your own squad when you do that. When you take, especially if that running back isn't a focal point in the pass on the third down passing downs. It would be different if you wanted to stack like here's a disgusting one, Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift. That's disgusting, right. But that would be, I think, or DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. Like that would be an off the beaten path type deal where that would be that's actually kind of sneaky. I might have to try it. I'm just going to do that one time just to see what it does. But I'm just curious. But if you're going to stack running backs, it has to be heavily off, pass catching backs like an Eckler or a Joe, even a Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has quite a bit of passing prowess as well. I think there's going to be more of that this year as well because of that offensive line. Yeah, but again, I'm excited for
it. The one thing about Joe Mixon is the reason he's not always the third down back is because his pass blocking is not. It's not the best. It's suboptimal. It's why he wasn't on that final drive for the Bengals.
What a joke! That's just bad coaching.
That was bad coaching. But look, it's because Joe Mixon is notoriously bad at pass blocking. So that's what this. They looked at the sheets and said this is what the math suggests, which is just put your damn best players in it.
Just leave your best players in there, man. Like, don't be stupid. Coaches are ridiculous sometimes. Like,
absolutely, brother.
That's pretty. I was actually just listening to KJ Wright talking about Russell Wilson and all the drama behind the scenes and all that stuff. And he talked about how all the trust just left the whole team when they decided not to run beast mode in. And he talked about it, and he said that killed the whole team. It killed everything. Like he said that all the players lost confidence in the coaching staff. That's the whole reason, and that's why Russ was never given the keys fully in that Pete Carroll offense, is because of drama like that. But it was interesting. It's just something I just popped in my brain.
I think that people are so quick to forget that these are real people playing.
Yeah,
Ego's coming to play. Mojo is a real thing, and when you lose that mojo, man, it's hard to get back. Just ask Austin Powers. So with that, Brandon, let's end it there.
Let's end it.
People, of course, we everything we're talking about right now, we're firmly in best ball season. Go to underdog.com. There's also a link in the show description. Follow that link. Use code DFS Army. They will get $1 for $1 first deposit match up to $100. That is $200 in your bankroll that you can go and spend on whether it's Best Ball Mania 3, which is $10 million of total prizes, $2 million to first. I think it's $1 million to second. So some massive, massive upside. $25 to enter one of those. Or you can go and enter the puppy for $5 for the tournaments. Now, my personal preference, Brandon, I don't like joining the tournaments because the odds of winning are just so much lower. I like to just do the regular contest. And there's $5 contests out there. There's $10 contests out there. My personal favorite, I like to have 3 or 4 best ball contests going at one time for $3 a piece. Because I just like the action, baby. Plus, it makes you sharper. You get a good feel of the draft board. And then maybe then you go drop your $25 in that Best Ball Mania 3. Or we're almost at July. July 4th is the official launch of fantasy football season, redraft season, and you will be the most prepared player.
100%.
You're going to be drafting for real money.
And you can start seeing trends developing over the summer. You can see just guys' ADPs are rising because people are starting to write about them on Twitter, and the masses are starting to read content and listen to content like you're doing right now. And that is when this is when you can get your edge. The real good players, like this is when you get your edge, and you can just take out those fishes later on in July and August because you already have your ADPs down. You know where everybody's going. You know when you can wait on guys because you know the Twitterverse is not high on somebody and they aren't going off at ADP. They're going to be going a few rounds later, like a Zach Ertz. Value of the season, boys. Like I'm telling you, I like, and one thing I'll add to our philosophy for me for best ball when I'm stacking, I always like to stack with an elite tight end. I try and focus on teams that have that elite tight end so I can get the elite tight end and then they get the wide receiver 1 of the offense. That's what I'm trying to do. That to me proves out to being the better strategy most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different strategies out there. We gave you a few today. If you want more strategies, go to dfsarmy.com. There's an articles button on the top left. Go click that. There's tons of fantasy football content. There's NASCAR. There's PGA. There's basketball. We got everything over at DFS Army. So go. If you don't want to type it in, you want to just click a button, go to the show info below, click that link, go to our website, check it out. And look, we're just going to help you crush in your fantasy football drafts, in your underdog drafts, in your DFS lineups. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be here all off season. You can follow Brandon on Twitter at BrandonDAdam19. You can follow me on Twitter at TheFlexNetwork1. So for Brandon, for the geek, I'm Shane, and we are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show.